So everything in the back of the truck pretty much just screws to this piece of 3/4 inch plywood. And so nothing's really secured to the truck. It's just all, yeah, screwed onto here. And the tank just bolts on there. That's the first thing you want to get in there. And I cut holes anywhere where it possibly could drip if I have a bad connection, just so water would run on the bed liner instead of collecting on the plywood. I'm actually going to cut a big hole under this tank so that I just cut down on some weight of this big sheet of plywood. And I'm going to cut some holes up here to under those drawer units, so I still have places to screw them down, but we're just eliminating some weight. So there's that 3/4 inch plywood that everything bolts to, and I just drew lines around where everything sits and cut out some big openings in the middle below stuff. That's where the tank goes, and I left plenty of room so everything still bolts on there securely, but this took actually a lot of weight off this board, probably close to half the weight. So here's that piece of plywood in the truck. The tank is secured on it, and next I'll put in the two big boxes that the drawers will slide in and out of. I'm going to have one more view of this that was taken earlier before those cutouts in the plywood were made, but it lets you see how things are set up a little bit better. And you'll notice on this that the boxes are a little different size because the tank's offset to the left a little bit, and that's to allow more access on the service side of the truck or the curb side, and also make it a little easier to fill the tank, which I do from the left side of the truck. And here's the box that drawer slides into. That big hole in the side is to allow access to the outlets inside of my truck. I didn't think I would need that, so it's kind of a hack job afterwards, but I couldn't open the little flapper that covers the outlet without cutting that. But other than that, this is just a total basic box. I just cut the bottom to fit the space I wanted, ripped down the side, and fit them as I went. It's all just butt joints and those 1.5-inch staples that I used for all of this. And the thing's really strong. I'm pretty happy with how that all turned out. So here's one of the big drawer units, and this is probably seems to be the most complicated part of the build. It's actually not that bad because it's just a drawer, a regular drawer, and this upper section right here was added afterwards, and in hindsight I should have screwed that on so I could have taken it off, but I glued and stapled that down too. But it's just a box with a shelf sticking out on the front. I think I got a picture of that. I'll try to put that in here. And then in the back, these wheels that are pointed up ride along up under the box this slides into. And the reason why they're on upside down is because when that drawer's pulled out, all the weight is way out here with the sprayers and everything, and the drawer wants to tip forward, and so that makes it slide very smoothly. And what it's gliding on are these wheels that drop down through the bottom of the drawer and guide inside or glide along inside the box, and those just hang down a tiny bit, and so that allows very little clearance necessary, but it rolls really nice. And I just cut 2 holes in the bottom of the box. I did that later, and it would be easier to do that at the time before you glue everything together. And then this drawer on the front, just left the front of the drawer open and put these glides on there, or drawer slides, and then put this drawer in afterwards. And so otherwise the space under this thing would have been pretty much all wasted, and this has worked out pretty great. The eye hooks are so I can bungee a backpack sprayer on there. The little narrow cubby is for the spray wand, and then these back ones are for chemicals. So when you pull this out, everything comes out with it, the chemicals, the sprayer, and you can access all of this stuff pretty easy. Also, when you pull this big drawer out, you have access to some of this, and so this is pretty usable space as well. The back little bit is stays under the box that this whole thing slides into, but you can access at least 1.5 feet of this and slide stuff back in there. And this is actually more usable space than I thought it was going to be, but when you pull it out, you can reach this from the side of the truck pretty well, so it is all pretty open. So both drawers are built pretty much the same way. The back of it's just a little narrower on the left side, but that's how it goes in there, and I didn't go into a lot of detail on how each individual one's built, but yeah, they're pretty much the same. So that's how those fit in there, and now we're on to the next thing. So here's that carcass for the center drawer unit. This is the one that holds the B&Gs right in the middle. And originally I wasn't going to have the top part of it slide out, and so I ended up having to double up the plywood on the sides to get those upper drawer slides in place, give them a place to screw to. But I just cut holes in the top and bottom of this to lighten it. It's all hidden when the drawers are in, so this was just to lighten it. And I left enough in the front here to give it a place to screw to the plywood floor of the truck. So here it is with the drawer back in, and it just has some dividers in one side, and I just kind of figured out what I wanted to put in there and built the dividers so everything would fit and stay organized. And here it is with the B&G rack in and fully extended. So this part will be hanging out all the way over the tailgate when it's pulled open, so it's easy to get the sprayers in and out. So here's how the unit actually fits into the truck, and there it is when it's closed. That's all there is to that. So here's one of the storage cubby trays, whatever, and basically on the front edge closest to the camera, it had to be lower so it can kind of go under the lip of the truck, and this back part, you want to make sure that's high enough so it is level with the sides of the canopy, because that's what supports that big shelf that goes on top. And there's just a little 2x2 screwed on the back of here, and that gives you a place to screw that board down. And I had to do a little notching at the end to make it fit. There's always a little few extra things that you don't consider unless you have really detailed plans, and I didn't have plans. I was just kind of building this as I went. And that little access hole right there allows me to drop a bolt in through there, and that's what keeps the big drawer unit below from sliding all the way out. And it's just in there loose, so I can reach in there and pull that out if I need to pull the drawer all the way out. That's all there is to it. That's the only place I used OSB, and it was just because I didn't have quite enough of the CDX plywood, and this is all hidden anyway. So I just cut the sheet big as I wanted it and built the sides, and everything's just stapled and glued. And those little boxes are going to sit right up, one on each side of the tank, and the first one, there it is, it's going to be a little bit wider on that side because the tank's offset to the left a little bit, and then there's the other one, and then we're going to build a shelf that spans across both of those, has little access doors into those cubbies, and a hole cut out so we can fill that tank, and we'll get started with that now. So here's the upper shelf that goes above the two storage trays, and the hole in the middle again is what allows me to fill my tank. And everywhere I could, I tried to round over corners just so you're not picking up splinters, touching stuff, makes it look a little bit better. And these, same with the little poles here. And this was all just cut from one long piano hinge. You can just buy a long piece of it and cut it and just lay it in place and screw it down, and that gives you good access. And then I screwed a little board on the underside of this sheet so there'd be a little lip for this to sit on when it closes. And I screwed this 2x4 on the back of it, and that stiffens things up, but also keeps stuff from sliding off the shelf when it's in the truck. And that's all there is to it. Basically, I just got a general shape, got it up there, figured out I had to notch out the corners of it because of how the canopy is mounted, and then where the canopy locks, this had to be notched out a little bit so that the locking mechanism could swing back down. But it was pretty quick and easy. These things were just cut out with a circular saw and a jigsaw, and I just tried to carefully drill a hole and start it and take my time and cut these out. So it's pretty straight. It's not perfect, but we're not building furniture here. This is just a storage unit. So that shelf is going to screw up at the front of the truck there over the tank, and just like that, it only screws in 4 places. It's just into the 2 screws into the back ledger board on both of those trays, and goes just like that. So here's one little detail. So this back compartment for the chemical holder is great for the bigger bottles of stuff, but it's too deep for the shorter bottles. So I just made this little platform that can drop in the bottom of that, and then all of those bottles sit up a little higher, and that way it's not screwed in. If chemical needs change or whatever, you're not really locked into anything, but it just made it a little nicer to see what's in that back compartment. You could obviously further customize that if you wanted to, but the other thing I did, my sprayer wand, I wanted this to be narrower spot so the wand would stick straight up and didn't get tangled up with the B&G sprayers, and so I put one more little divider in there, which created kind of a extra little spot to keep like a web brush, and this is something I knocked down wasp nests with. So anyway, that's it. So most of this project was built from 1/2-inch ACX plywood. I tried to use the good side out as much as possible, and most of it was put together with glue and these 1.5-inch narrow crown staples. This gun is between $80 and $100, and it'll save you a ton of time if you're going to build this thing. It took a couple weekends to put everything together. A lot of that was kind of spent figuring out how I wanted to do it. The actual build time isn't really that bad, but if anybody has any questions about it, you can leave a comment below, and I will try to answer that. Thanks for watching.